Hello and welcome to this After Effects tutorial in which we're looking at the dictionary preset and doing some advanced animation so that we can fade out text at the background and then move these parts around. So far we've done our include group where we can select the words that we want included and we can change their scale as a group, their color as a group. And then we've created an exclusion group using multiple range selectors, which has allowed us to add a blur and opacity fade to the words that we don't want to use. The final thing we need to do is we need to be able to move the individual words into the appropriate place. Now to do that it's probably best firstly to set up your grids and your margins. So with your grids and margins and guides option here, I'm going to go to title and action safe, and I want my words say between this line and this line, so I'm going to go down to my rulers and I'm going to pull out a ruler for here, and I'm going to pull out a ruler for the equivalent on the other side, which is there, and I need to work out roughly where I want them to be. Let's say I'm going to want them to end up pretty much in the middle, so a ruler there. At this point I can then turn off my rulers, turn off my title and action safe, and I know where I want them to start and stop and where I want them to finish. If you want to turn those off as well, by the way, you can turn off guides if you don't want to see those, but we'll leave the guides on so that we can actually place things. Now what I need to do is select each of these individual words and move them into place, but we'll need to animate them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select a couple of words and move them into place, and then show you, if you've moved them before you animate them, how you can save yourself and get back to where you need to start. So what we're trying to say is using and customizing. So let's just perhaps do a couple of these words just to show you how it works. You'll need to select the layer at the top. Sometimes it's best to deselect the whole thing and just select the layer at the top, and then we can go into animate. And what we're actually going to want to animate is the position of individual words. So we choose position, and then we're going to rename the selector. So at the moment it just says animator 1, but we're going to rename it after the word that matters. So the first word we want is using, so I'm going to hit enter and I'm going to call it using. And then you'll see that having done that, my range selector options have come up. If they've not come up, by the way, just untwirl range selector and select start or end and you'll see them on screen. But it's come up with just the word using for me, so I can just take this and drag it to using. So beginning of the U, take the end one and drag it to the end of the G. Okay, so that's now selected, and you'll see that I've got the option to change the position settings. Notice by the way that it defaults to 0, 0. Okay, sometimes you think 0, 0 is the origin point up here, but actually with these ones it's where it starts. Just so you know, this will save us a bit later on. So say by 5 seconds where I'm actually going to want it to be is actually here on this line. So you can click and drag the X and Y properties. Bear in mind, if it moves very slowly, if you hold the Shift key, everything will move 10 times quicker. The Control key or the Command key on a Mac will make things move 10 times slower. So I want to pull it down to the line. Now I'm only going to do this very roughly because we don't have an awful lot of time for showing these sort of things. So I can move it to the appropriate place, and then I can move it to the beginning of my line, holding the Shift key in the actual place. So say that'll do for us. Now I've moved it to the appropriate place, so the next word I want is and, so it's using and customizing. So again I need to go to the layer at the top, and I can twirl up using and select again animate position, and I rename this one immediately. I'm choosing animator 1, hit enter and call it and, so I know what it is. And again my range selectors have come up, so I can just stick it to the beginning of and. So moving using and again what I can do is I can got my position properties, so I can again play with those. So I'm going to hold my Shift key while I drag them down roughly to the same point. Obviously you would spend a lot longer on this than I'm going to, just for the sense of the tutorial. I'll have to do and move it across using. Okay, so that will do. So using and, they're roughly in the right place, but I haven't animated them. I've made a mistake. This is where the advantage of these positions having a 0, 0 reset really steps in. So if I open both of these and I click, this is the end point, so at 5 seconds I want them both to be here. Click the stopwatch for both of them, go back to where I want the animation to start. So say I want it to animate over 2 seconds, so back to 3. Then I can right click on the word position, reset, right click again on the word position here, reset, and they'll go back to their original places, and you'll see that over these 2 seconds they'll animate to where we want them to be. Okay, and you might want to put easy ease keyframes on those. So that's what you would do with all the rest of the words, such that you can create the example that we've got at the very beginning of moving those words around. So I hope you found these tutorials useful. Once these words are all together, if you want to scale them as a group, remember you do have transforms for the whole layer. So you can of course scale the whole thing, the whole layer, and it's going to scale all those words together. Okay, Control Z to undo that, and you can move the position of the layer, and you can play with the opacity of the layer. Okay, so you have all the layer properties still that you can animate, as well as being able to play with the individual words by moving them around by selecting them with the position selector. So we have used the dictionary preset to decide what we are going to include. Just going to turn off these other ones. Okay, so we used the dictionary preset and decided which words we wanted to include. Then we created an exclusion group which we could add opacity and blur to make our words really stand out. And then we added range selectors, position range selectors for the individual words so that we could move them into place. And then to finish off with, of course, we can actually use the layer transforms, the fixed effects, to scale the whole layer, to move things around in position as we faded out the back. I will upload with this final one the original project that I did without the music, so you can play around with that and have a go and customize it as much as you like. I hope you found these tutorials useful. It is actually relatively quick once you get going with it. It's just a case of being able to think it through and understand it. Once you're there, you'll find that this is really useful for creating some stunning effects using paragraph text and pulling out words and making them stand out. I hope you found this series useful. My name's Andrew Davis, and thank you for watching.